And what's the typical age of a young lady that's actually out there?
The sad part is we find the entry level into forced prostitution in America is about 13 years old for young women.
Wow.
It's even younger than that for boys.
Wow.
But the issue is this. I mean, we've seen all kinds of cases. We've seen the situation where the young lady was literally held at gunpoint and forced into the car. That's very rare. That's not the typical situation. Most of the time it's using social media and other tools, and they'll actually kind of groom the girl.
Right.
And they'll approach her in somewhat of like a boyfriend and try to kind of manipulate her thinking, hey, this is a relationship. This guy loves me. And then he flips on her. But her attachment to him has now, it's been a distraction where she's really thinking, hey, this guy loves me and I'm just trying to be a dutiful girlfriend.
Yeah.
Not that, hey, this guy's manipulating me and using me. It's not something really great for the dinner table.
Yeah.
It's not something you want to talk about or really have in your face, because if it's in your face, you have to ask the question, what am I doing about it?
Absolutely.
What am I doing to stop it?
A common thread that I see is that they've just lost hope. They are just, they go into this mode of being vacant, like they blink out and they're not even there. They're just going through the motions to survive. And I remember one of my girls, we were in the car and she was still a minor. And we're asking her, honey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she looked at me and she said, alive. And that was it. Like all she wanted to do was just live for the next day. And just sometimes these stories or hearing about the abuse that happens, or that they're not even allowed to sleep in the hotel room. They have to sleep in a car on the floor until they make a certain amount of money. Or just the horrific physical things that have happened to them. It breaks your heart.
The young girl that I met, the very first outreach that I attended, she had her baby, and so we would help her out and babysit for her while she worked. And so just really formed a close bond with her through that. And, that she trusted me to babysit for her was big, and just seeing her make the changes over the last couple years, that she got out of the, I would say, abusive relationship that she was in, that she's moved back home with her family to be near family, and she's done amazing. She has her own apartment, she has a job. You might not know how to talk to a woman who works in a club and just thinking that they're so much different than you, but I really saw how these women can be very similar to ourselves, and they all have a story.
Now, walk us through a successful rescue. What actually happens once that young lady is taken off the street? Take us through that whole process of getting her off the street, putting her in the housing. What happens there?
There's three types of housing. There's emergency housing. There's program housing, which is normally 6 to 12 months with the staff and regulated care. And then there's transitional housing. It's post a program and trying to get back to independence.
Yeah.
For us, we do a lot of emergency housing, doing the immediate rescue and then trying to get them placed in the short term for that emergency care. And then from there, we'll actually try to help them find a program house that would be a good fit if that's something that they desire. So if they're going somewhere local, we'll most likely be continuing to work with them and offering some case management services.
Some days I am going directly on site to pick up a girl that has just been brought out of human trafficking. Sometimes I go directly and pick her up and do an immediate assessment of what her needs are. Some days I'm working directly with our clients that have been in our program for a long time, helping them go to the DMV to get their driver's license, schooling, childcare needs, working with their children. So every day kind of varies, but really working with girls individually to help find what is the best fit for them and what do they need in order to get on their feet and to be safe and independent.
So fighting against trafficking for all of these years, it's difficult and it is a lot of work, but we have to stay motivated because these people are precious. These are God's children. These are the orphans that are abandoned from James 1:27. These are the people that Isaiah 1:17 tells us to defend. These are the oppressed. So we have scriptural mandate to motivate us to move forward, to constantly be seeking after justice for these victims. A huge part of what we do is helping to educate people and just bring awareness to the fact that this is something that's happening on our doorsteps and that no one is exempt anymore, that the internet has changed the rules of trafficking, and that the reality is that there is no normal demographic for a trafficking victim anymore.
One question that I love to ask that always seems to get them to open up a little more is I'll ask, well, when you were little, what did you want to be? Because it gets her kind of outside of the current situation and gets her back to maybe a time that might have been a little better for her and to get her dreaming again. That usually opens the door to more conversation.
Working with girls with human trafficking, to me, it's almost you're becoming a parent to them. You are becoming a healthy relationship with them that they do not often have. A lot of times what we teach them is things that you learn from 11 to 21. And then, pretty much being on call 24/7 for them. That if in the middle of the night they have a flashback or a nightmare, being that person that they can call and you can talk with them, or if something happens and they're upset, to be that. But, when they open their own bank account and they call you and they're excited, celebrating those moments with them too.
Now, with success comes failure. Talk a little bit about your experience with children who perhaps don't want to get assistance. And then on the flip side of that is when they decide that they are going to go back out on the streets. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's some of the most heartbreaking parts, of this work. Talking to some of my partner organizations, we've agreed that it's not uncommon for a girl to come out and then go back in up to 3 times before she's really serious. Wow. I would say out of our clients, almost 40% have gone back into it at some point. Now, many of those girls have gone out and then 6 months later call us again for help again. And you feel like you're starting over, but you know what? We try to be sympathetic to that, because just like someone who may struggle with alcoholism or anything else, sometimes you fall off the wagon a few times before you're at a place to get away.
We celebrate every single victory. Our hearts break when they go back into it, and we cry and we pray for them, but we don't cut off the relationship. I still have girls right now that are still in the life, but they're constantly texting or reaching out to me, and they know the moment that they're ready to really get out, we're here. And I think that unconditional love, and that, the word talks about how many times should you forgive someone. It's not 7 times, it's 7 times 70. And that's with these girls, to have that grace and that understanding of you may go back to life, but when you're ready to come out, we still love you and we're still here, and we're going to root for you just as hard as we did the first time before.
They're so used to people just taking from them and expecting things from them. And so, once they realize that you're really there for them and that they trust you to open up enough to say, hey, I messed up and I need help, or, I've made some bad decisions, or, I'm ready to make a change. What do I have to do? That's pretty humbling, and, it really does. That's part of what keeps you going in doing this, when you see those that backslide or kind of go back into the life that they've left. And, but that's what keeps you going, is knowing that eventually, like all of us, like the prodigal son, we come home, and they need to know that there's someone they can go home to.
Even when I'm doing this work, I'm a sinner too. I'm not better than the trafficker. So part of the reason evil exists is because people like Mark Black will exist.
Right.
So I see that, but the Lord redeemed me, and he paid my price. So with that, when I am helping a girl or assisting someone, I realize that it's not me, but it's Christ in me, and that Mark doesn't rescue. Mark's not a hero. Mark's at the foot of the cross next to the trafficking victim and the trafficker, and he can point and say, there's the Savior. So Jesus rescues and Jesus redeems, and I'm just thankful to be able to participate.
Seeing the results of our work, seeing people actually begin their road of healing is such a rejuvenating effect, because these are people who are lost in darkness, who had no voice, and just playing a small role in helping them get back on that path and helping them get back to a normal life where they can enjoy their lives and actually interact with the people around them and be with their families. That's a huge thing for them. And because of that, that's a huge sense of satisfaction for us, whatever our role is, however big, however small, just being able to play any part. When we are able to find someone a place to stay, a place to feel safe, to feel loved, and to feel special as they're beginning this transition, it's a great sense of satisfaction for us, but also it's a great sense of hope that the community is actually becoming involved in the fight against human trafficking. This isn't something that we can do without community involvement. We need these hotels, we need these volunteers, we need these businesses connecting with us on a community level in order for us to be effective, because this work is too big and it's too difficult for us to do without community involvement.
When Martin Luther King was talking about, the parable of the Good Samaritan, he spoke on how the Levite and the priest, when they saw the man that was beat up and off to the side, most likely their first thought was, if I stop and help this man, what's going to happen to me?
Right,
This is dangerous. But he said, by the actions of the Good Samaritan, you reverse that question. And the Good Samaritan said, if I don't help, what's going to happen to them?
That's exactly right.
And that's basically kind of where we're coming from. It's not that we have all the answers or we're the toughest guy in town even, but we feel a real responsibility to our neighbor to say, you know what? you're in trouble. Hey, what if it was my daughter? What if it was my niece? What if it was my cousin? What would I not do for her?
Yeah.
And we try to love this girl the same.